Ronaldo's 1,000th goal at the World Cup sounds like a moment pulled straight from a football fairy tale. But when you look closely at the numbers, the timing, and the man himself, it becomes a possibility that is no longer impossible. Because as of late 2025, Cristiano Ronaldo has already scored approximately 950 official career goals for club and country combined, a figure that places him alone at the summit of modern football scoring history. With over 700 goals at club level across Sporting CP, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus, and Al Nassr, and more than 140 international goals for Portugal, making him the highest-scoring male international player of all time. And with this current tally, Ronaldo now needs around 50 more goals to reach the mythical 1,000-goal milestone, a number that sounds enormous until you remember that this is the same player who once scored 50 to 60 goals a season at his peak, and has continued to score consistently well into his late 30s and early 40s, defying every conventional rule about athletic decline. When we analyze the road to the 2026 World Cup, the timeline suddenly becomes crucial, because between now and the tournament, Ronaldo still has club football, international qualifiers, Nations League matches, and friendlies to add to his tally. And even if we take a conservative estimate of his output and say he scores between 20 to 25 goals per competition across all competitions, that alone puts him within touching distance of the 1,000 mark by mid to late 2026, meaning there is a very real scenario where Ronaldo enters the World Cup sitting on something like 985, 990, or even 995 goals. And at that point, the entire tournament transforms into a live countdown, where every Portugal match becomes must-watch television, every shot carries historical weight, and every goal-mouth moment feels like destiny waiting to strike. The expanded 48-team World Cup format adds another layer to this story because it guarantees more matches, particularly in the group stage, and increases the likelihood of games against lower-ranked opponents, where experienced finishers like Ronaldo historically thrive, especially when supported by Portugal's current golden generation of creators and midfielders, allowing him to focus on what he has always done best, which is movement inside the box, aerial dominance, penalties under pressure, and ruthless finishing, rather than carrying the entire attacking burden himself. Critics will point to his age and say that football is unforgiving, that pace fades, that younger defenders are faster and stronger. But Ronaldo's career has been built on adaptation rather than reliance on raw speed, evolving from a flashy winger into a lethal penalty box predator, mastering positioning, timing, and anticipation, skills that do not disappear with age. And when you add his legendary discipline in fitness, nutrition, recovery, and preparation, it becomes clear why he is still competing at the highest international level when most players are long retired. Statistically, the chances of Ronaldo reaching 1,000 before the World Cup are uncertain but realistic, depending on injuries and minutes. But the chances of him reaching 1,000 during the World Cup become very real if he enters the tournament close enough, because at that stage he wouldn't need a miracle, just 1 or 2 goals in the right moments, maybe a penalty in a tense group game, maybe a trademark header rising above defenders, maybe a rebound topped in under pressure. The same types of goals he has scored hundreds of times across 2 decades. And imagine the scene if that moment arrives. A packed stadium in North America, billions watching worldwide, Portugal in a crucial match, Ronaldo steps up, scores, and football officially crosses a line it has never crossed before, with the first player in recorded modern football history reaching 1,000 official career goals, and doing it on the sport's biggest stage, a moment that would instantly become one of the most replayed, debated, and iconic moments in sporting history. Even if the milestone does not arrive exactly at the World Cup and comes shortly after, the fact that Ronaldo is even in the conversation at this age speaks volumes about the career we are witnessing, because numbers like 1,000 goals transcend club rivalries, league debates, and era comparisons, representing longevity, obsession, discipline, and an unmatched hunger for greatness. And that is why the idea of the World Cup being the stage for this milestone feels poetic, because the World Cup is where football immortalizes its legends, where moments outlive players, and where history is written in real time. And whether Ronaldo reaches that goal in a group match, a knockout round, or just beyond the tournament, one thing is certain: If Cristiano Ronaldo scores his 1,000th goal at the 2026 World Cup, it won't just break records, it won't just dominate headlines, it will redefine what football fans believe is humanly possible, and it will stand forever as one of the greatest moments the sport has ever seen. And as that possibility hangs in the air, the conversation around Ronaldo's 1,000th goal begins to shift from fantasy to inevitability, because history has shown us time and time again that when football doubts Cristiano Ronaldo, he responds by rewriting the script. And heading into the final phase of his career, the chase for 1,000 goals becomes less about speed or youth and more about intelligence, experience, and moments. The kind of moments Ronaldo has mastered better than any player in football history. Because even now, with approximately 950 official goals already scored, every season he plays is not about chasing form, but about chasing opportunities. And the reality is that opportunities will continue to come, both at club level and internationally, as long as he remains fit and available. And with Portugal's national team setup evolving around creators, runners, and midfielders who feed the striker rather than rely on him to do everything, Ronaldo's role becomes even more dangerous, because fewer touches often mean higher efficiency, and this efficiency is exactly what makes the 1,000-goal target achievable within the World Cup timeline. When we analyze Portugal's likely journey at the 2026 World Cup, the expanded tournament structure again plays a crucial role, because more matches mean more matches, more tactical mismatches, and more chances for veteran finishers to exploit defensive errors. And while younger players may bring energy, it is experienced players who understand timing, pressure, and space who often decide World Cup moments. And Ronaldo has lived these moments across 5 World Cups already, meaning there is no situation on that stage that will surprise him, whether it's a hostile crowd, a must-win game, or the weight of history pressing down on every touch. What also strengthens this narrative is Ronaldo's mentality, because unlike many players who see retirement approaching and begin to slow down psychologically before their bodies do, Ronaldo has always operated with the mindset that limits do not apply to him. And this obsession, this refusal to accept decline, is what has allowed him to extend his career beyond what anyone predicted, turning his late 30s and early 40s into an era of accumulation, where every goal quietly adds another brick to the monument he is building. Critics often argue that goals scored outside Europe should count differently, but football history has never been written with asterisks, and every official goal recorded by FIFA stands equal in the record books, whether it is scored in Lisbon, Madrid, Manchester, Turin, Riyadh, or on the world's biggest stage at the World Cup. And when future generations look back, they will not ask where the goals were scored, but how many. And no player has ever approached the 4-digit milestone in the modern era the way Ronaldo has. As the 2026 World Cup approaches, the media narrative will intensify. Countdown graphics will appear on broadcasts. Commentators will track every goal he scores in club matches. Social media will explode with every update, and the pressure will rise not just on Ronaldo, but on football itself, because the sport rarely gets moments where a single action can permanently alter its historical landscape, and a 1,000th goal at the World Cup would be exactly that kind of moment, something that instantly separates eras into before and after. Imagine the psychological effect on defenders knowing that they are part of history whether they succeed or fail. Imagine goalkeepers knowing that a single mistake could immortalize them forever as the man who conceded Ronaldo's 1,000th goal. And imagine teammates knowing that one final pass, one assist, one cross could place them forever in football folklore. And this collective awareness alone adds tension to every Portugal match, turning ordinary games into extraordinary spectacles. Even if Ronaldo's minutes are managed carefully, even if he starts some matches from the bench, history has shown that he does not need 90 minutes to make an impact, because some of his most iconic goals have come in short bursts, late substitutions, and decisive moments when defenses are tired and concentration drops. Exactly the kind of scenarios that define World Cups, especially in knockout rounds. And if the goal does come, whether it is a calm penalty, a powerful header, or a scrappy finish inside the 6-yard box, the reaction will transcend football, because this will not be about club rivalries, messy comparisons, or tactical debates. It will be about witnessing a human being cross a boundary that once seemed unreachable, a number that existed only in myths and record books from a different era, now achieved in the modern game with global competition, elite defenses, and relentless scrutiny. And even if fate decides that the 1000th goal arrives just weeks or months after the World Cup rather than during it, the journey itself will still stand as one of the most extraordinary chapters in sports history, because very few athletes in any sport have managed to remain relevant, competitive, and decisive across such a long time span, and fewer still have done so while carrying the weight of expectation that Ronaldo has carried for over 20 decades. Ultimately, this chase is not just about Ronaldo. It is about what football allows, what the sport rewards, and how greatness evolves, because Ronaldo's pursuit of 1,000 goals represents the ultimate expression of consistency, discipline, and belief. And whether that final milestone is reached on a football pitch in North America or shortly after, the legacy will be the same. A reminder that football's greatest stories are written by those who refuse to stop, refuse to fade quietly, and refuse to accept that history has already been written. And if that final goal does arrive under the brightest lights of the World Cup, then it will not just close a chapter in Ronaldo's career, it will close an entire era of football, leaving behind a standard that may never be matched again. As the final chapter of this journey unfolds, the chase for Ronaldo's 1000th goal becomes something far bigger than a statistic, because by this point, it no longer belongs only to Cristiano Ronaldo. It belongs to football itself, to every fan who has watched his rise from a skinny teenager in Lisbon to a global icon who refused to obey time, logic, or probability. And as the 2026 World Cup draws closer, every goal he scores in club football and every appearance he makes for Portugal feels like another page being added to a story that the sport may never experience again. Because very few athletes in history have been able to turn longevity into dominance rather than survival. And Ronaldo has done exactly that, transforming what should have been a slow fade into one final relentless pursuit of immortality. At approximately 950 official career goals, the finish line is close enough to feel real, but far enough to demand perfection, discipline, and resilience. And this is where the weight of history becomes both a burden and a weapon, because pressure has never broken Ronaldo, it has sharpened him. And the closer he gets to that number, the more dangerous he becomes, driven not by fear of failure, but by obsession with completion. The World Cup, football's ultimate proving ground, stands as the most fitting stage imaginable, because it strips players of comfort and excuses, placing them under the same spotlight, the same rules, and the same unforgiving judgment of history. And if Ronaldo reaches that milestone there, surrounded by nations, cultures, and billions of eyes, the symbolism will be unmatched, a career defined not just by trophies or Ballon d'Ors, but by the sheer act of endurance in a sport that consumes its stars quickly. Even if the final goal comes not in a dramatic knockout match, but in a quieter moment, a rebound, a penalty, a tap-in that looks ordinary on the surface, the meaning will still be extraordinary, because football history is not remembered by aesthetics alone, but by moments that cross boundaries, and goal number 1000 would represent the final proof that greatness is not a peak, but a process sustained over decades. Debates will rage forever about eras, leagues, teammates, and comparisons, but numbers like 1000 exist beyond argument, because they cannot be explained away or contextualized into insignificance. They simply stand, towering above time, and when future generations look back, they will not ask how old Ronaldo was or where the goal was scored. They will ask how it was possible at all. And when the final whistle eventually blows on his career, whether that happens shortly after the World Cup or sometime later, the pursuit itself will remain one of football's greatest narratives, a reminder that limits are often imaginary, that obsession can outlast youth, and that history is written by those who stay long enough to finish what they started. And if Cristiano Ronaldo does score his 1000th goal on a football pitch in 2026, then that moment will not just mark the end of a legendary career. It will mark the moment football itself paused, looked back at everything it had witnessed over 2 decades, and acknowledged that it may never see another journey quite like this again.